I died choking on my own blood, the metallic tang flooding my mouth as the MPs dragged me away in cuffs, my father's voice echoing like a death knell. She's a traitor, boys. Lock her up and throw away the key. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst was realizing, in that final, gasping moment, that the man who'd raised me, Admiral Elias Harrington, hero of the Gulf, had sold me out to cover his own filthy secrets. And now, as my eyes snapped open to the sterile hum of my old barracks alarm clock at 0600 on a muggy Norfolk morning in 2023, I knew this wasn't some divine mulligan. This was my second shot at hell, and I was going to make the devil sweat. Heart slamming against my ribs like a rogue wave, I bolted upright in my narrow bunk, the faded Navy poster of the USS Enterprise peeling from the cinderblock wall just like it had 3 years ago, before the courts-martial, before the whispers turned to screams, before they buried me alive in Leavenworth. My hands flew to my throat, expecting the phantom crush of those zip ties, but all I felt was smooth skin, the dog tags I'd worn since OCS still cool against my collarbone. Valentina Harrington. Lieutenant J.G. Valentina Harrington, fresh out of Annapolis, top of her cyber warfare class, and blissfully ignorant that her own blood was about to shank her in the back. The date on my phone confirmed it. June 15th, 2023. Exactly 1,095 days before I'd swing from the end of my own rope in that godforsaken cell. I stumbled to the mirror, splashing water on my face, but the reflection staring back was me. 28, sharp jawline, hazel eyes that could cut glass, the kind of all-American girl next door who'd turn heads at a tailgate but blend into the woodwork at a briefing. Except now, those eyes burned with borrowed time. "You son of a bitch," I whispered to the ghost of my father, who was probably at that moment sipping black coffee in his corner office at Navarre, plotting his next medal-worthy op. Elias Harrington, silver fox with a chest full of fruit salad, the admiral who'd clawed his way up from enlisted grunt to flag rank on sheer brass and buried bodies. I'd idolized him once. Hell, I'd enlisted because of him, chasing that ghost of approval like a moth to a porch light. But I knew the truth now, etched into my soul from that last life. It started small, a flagged email in the secure net, some encrypted chatter about Project Neptune that I'd stumbled on during a routine scrub. I'd thought it was just another leak, some mid-level hacker testing the fences. Reported it up the chain, straight to Daddy Dearest, because who else? He patted me on the back, called me his sharpest sword. And then, nothing. Weeks later, the hammer fell. Accusations of espionage, selling classifieds to the highest bidder, me, the loyal daughter, painted as the Benedict Arnold in heels. Evidence? Forged logs, doctored timestamps, witnesses who'd swear on a stack of Bibles that I'd been cozying up to foreign assets. And the kicker? The boys in uniform line. Dad leaked that to the press himself, spinning me as some gold-digging siren who'd bedded her way through the officer corps for intel scraps. Valentina always had a type, he drawled in that viral clip, the one that made me a punchline on every late-night show from Fallon to Colbert. It destroyed me faster than the trial ever could. I dressed in a blur, crisp khakis, boots polished to a mirror shine, and hit the PT track before the sun crested the horizon. My lungs burned with each lap, but it wasn't exhaustion. It was rage, pure and electric, coiling in my gut like a live wire. I had to play it cool. One wrong move, one suspicious glance, and history would repeat itself. But God, the temptation screamed. Part of me wanted to storm his office right then, slam the door, and spit the future in his face. I know about the kickbacks from those Chinese shell companies, Elias. I know you funneled Neptune funds to your offshore slush fund. And I know you framed me to plug the leak. But that was suicide. No, this time, I'd build the case brick by bloody brick, turn his empire to ash from the inside out. By 0800, I was in the cyber ops bullpen, the hum of servers and the clack of keyboards a familiar symphony. My team, Jenkins, the lanky ensign with a caffeine foredrip, Maria, the cryptologist who could crack ass like it was a piñata, nodded as I slid into my station. "Morning, LT. You look like you saw a ghost." Jenkins grinned, tossing me a Red Bull. I forced a laugh, popping the tab. Just the usual nightmares about failing quals. Lies, all of it. But as I logged in, my fingers itched toward the backdoor I'd installed in my first life. Ironic, the very tool that got me caught.
No.
Start small. Pull the old logs, cross-reference with public records. Find the first thread. Hours blurred into a frenzy of data dives. Neptune wasn't just some op, it was Elias's baby. A black-budget AI for predictive naval strikes, greenlit under the last administration's America First fever dream. Billions funneled through proxies, and I'd bet my second life that not a dime stayed stateside. By noon, I'd flagged a discrepancy. A $2 mill transfer to a Cayman account masked as consulting fees. Linked to a shell corp with ties to Beijing tech firms. My pulse thrummed. This was it, the smoking gun's ember. But I couldn't touch it directly. Not yet. Instead, I anonymized a tip to the IG hotline, just enough to stir the pot without boiling over. Lunch was a protein bar in the galley, where the gossip mill churned like always. Heard the Admiral's pushing for that promotion to CNO, some chief petty officer muttered, fork spearing mystery meat. Man's untouchable. I bit back a snort, scrolling my phone for cover. That's when the text hit. Family dinner tonight. 1900, don't be late. Dad. My stomach twisted. In my first life, that dinner was the trap. Elias, all smiles over steak, probing if I'd noticed anything off in ops. I'd spilled about the anomaly, thinking it was a father-daughter team-up. By dessert, the MPs were at the door. I showed up anyway, because knowledge was my armor now. The Harrington homestead in Virginia Beach was all Cape Cod charm, white clapboard, American flags snapping in the breeze, the kind of place that screamed, patriot, from the curb. Inside, it reeked of old money and older lies, mahogany paneling, shelves groaning with Elias's memorabilia, photos of me in pigtails hugging his leg at Fleet Weeks. He was in the den, swirling scotch, his uniform jacket slung over a chair like a shed skin. There's my girl, he boomed, pulling me into a bear hug that smelled of bay rum and betrayal. Up close, the lines around his eyes were deeper than I remembered, stress fractures in the facade. We ate in near silence, the clink of silverware a metronome to my internal storm. Mom, bless her, the eternal enabler, chattered about garden club drama, oblivious as ever. Elias watched me over his wineglass, those steel blue eyes dissecting. How's the grind, Val? Still chasing those fly boys? He chuckled, but it didn't reach his eyes. The hook. In my first life, I blushed, deflected with a joke about focusing on code, not conquests. This time, I met his gaze dead on.
Nah, Dad.
Uniforms are overrated. It's the ones pulling strings behind the curtain that keep me up at night. His fork paused midair, just a flicker, but I caught it, the predator sensing a shift in the wind. Dinner dragged, but I held the line, dropping no crumbs. As I kissed Mom goodnight and headed for the door, Elias clapped my shoulder. Proud of you, kid. Keep your head down out there.
Lies.
All of it. I drove back to base with the windows down, salt air whipping my hair, plotting my next move. Tomorrow, I'd tap my old Annapolis buddy, Ryan, the one who testified against me in the trial, the one whose evidence sealed my fate. Ryan, who'd been Elias's golden boy, groomed as the son I could never be. If anyone knew the rot's roots, it was him. Sleep came fitful, dreams splintered with courtroom echoes and the snap of a noose. Dawn broke gray and unrelenting, and by 0700, I was en route to D.C. for a routine liaison meeting, cover for cornering Ryan at the Pentagon's coffee kiosk. He was there, all pressed khakis and easy charm, nursing a latte when I slid onto the stool beside him.
Val.
Long time. What's shaking in Norfolk? His smile was boyish, disarming, the same one that had fooled juries and lovers alike. We bullshitted for 5 minutes, weather deployments, before I reeled him in. Heard you're on the fast track. Dad's influence. His laugh was too quick. Nah, just hard work. Speaking of, you still buried in bits and bytes. I leaned in, voice low. Actually digging into something big. Project Neptune. Ever hear whispers? His cup froze halfway to his lips, color draining like ink in water. Neptune? That's Admiral level black.
Why?
Bingo. The hook set. I played it coy, feeding him just enough, anomalous transfers, ghost accounts, to watch him squirm. By the time I left, his texts were blowing up my phone. We need to talk. Off books.
Perfect.
He'd bite, and when he did, I'd have him on tape, spilling Elias's sins. But as I merged onto I-95, a black SUV tailed too close in my rear view. Unmarked. Government plates. Paranoia? Or the first ripple? I floored it, weaving through traffic, heart pounding like a war drum. They didn't follow. But the message was clear. Eyes everywhere. Elias's web was tighter than I remembered. Back at base, I locked my door and fired up the VPN, cross-checking Ryan's financials against public leaks. Jackpot. A wire to the same Cayman nest egg, time-stamped 6 months back. Coincidence? Bullshit. This was the betrayal's blueprint. Elias greasing palms, puppeteering his protégés to launder the loot. And me? The fall guy, the disloyal daughter, with the promiscuous cover story to discredit any defense. The press ate it up. Admiral's wild child spies for Beijing. My career, my name, my life, torched for his ambition. Night fell heavy, thunder rumbling over the Atlantic like artillery. I lay awake, fingers tracing the scar on my palm from a childhood sailing mishap, Elias's tough love lesson in knots. He'd always said family was everything, blood thicker than salt water. What a crock. By morning, Ryan's meet was set. A dive bar in Arlington, 2100. I'd wear a wire, play the eager ally, and gut him like a fish. But as I geared up, a knock shattered the quiet. Jenkins, pale as milk. LT, you got a visitor.
Brass.
Says it's urgent. My blood iced. Elias? No, worse. The door swung open to reveal Captain Harlan Graves, my CO, flanked by 2 stone-faced security goons. Lieutenant Harrington, he drawled, eyes cold as Chesapeake steel. We need to talk. Now. The room spun. Too soon. Way too fucking soon. They didn't cuff me. Not yet, but the zip ties for my nightmares might as well have been digging into my wrists as Graves herded me into his office, the goons bookending the door like silent sentinels. The air stank of stale coffee and authority, the walls lined with commendations that mocked my own fragile rank. Sit, Graves ordered, dropping a manila folder on his desk with a thud that echoed like a gavel. I complied, spine ramrod straight, mind racing through escape vectors. This wasn't in the script. In my first life, the takedown came weeks later, after I'd poked the bear too hard. What the hell had I changed already? Graves didn't waste breath on pleasantries. He slid the folder my way, its label screaming classified / no foreign. Open it. My fingers trembled, just a hair, as I flipped the cover. Grainy screenshots stared back. My terminal logs from yesterday, the Neptune query highlighted in damning red. Below it, an IP trace bouncing through proxies that screamed amateur hour. But I'd been careful, routing through triple encrypted nodes.
Unless. Ryan.
The bastard had flipped faster than a politician at a fundraiser. Care to explain why you're sniffing around black projects, Lieutenant? On your father's dime, no less. I swallowed the bile rising in my throat, channeling every ounce of Annapolis poise. Routine audit, sir. Flagged an irregularity in fund flows. Thought it was a glitch. Graves' laugh was a bark, devoid of humor. Glitch? Try treason light. We've got chatter from assets in the field. Someone tipped a cutout about your little snoop. And guess whose name popped up in the metadata? He tapped the page, right on my user ID. Forged. Just like before. Elias's ghostwriters were already at work, scripting my downfall. I didn't tip anyone, sir. That's not. He cut me off with a raised palm, eyes narrowing to slits. Save it for the JAG. You're on ice, desk duty, no net access, full audit of your kit. And Harrington? Keep your family drama out of my command. Your old man's got enough enemies without you stirring the pot. The dismissal stung worse than the accusation. Family drama. If he only knew. I saluted crisp, chin high, and marched out past the goons, their stares boring holes. Jenkins caught my eye in the hall, concern etching his freckled face, but I shook my head. Not now. Trust was a luxury I couldn't afford. Back in my quarters, I paced like a caged panther, the walls closing in with each lap. Ryan's meat was off the table now. Graves' lockdown meant eyes on my every move. But I wasn't done. Buried in my footlocker, wrapped in socks, was my ace. A burner thumb drive from my first life, loaded with salvaged scraps, the unredacted Neptune brief I'd smuggled before the raid. Plugged it into my offline laptop, the screen blooming with horrors I'd half forgotten. Schematics for autonomous drone swarms, coded to strike high-value targets, with zero human oversight. Elias's brainchild, sold piecemeal to the highest bidder. And the buyers? Not just Beijing, Russians, Iranians, even a cartel front masquerading as a Silicon Valley startup. Billions in blood money, funneled through Ryan's consulting gigs and a dozen other patsies. The betrayal cut deeper now, illuminated in cold blue light. Elias hadn't just framed me, he'd weaponized me. That boys in uniform smear? It wasn't random. It targeted my ex, Lieutenant Commander Alex Rivera, the one who'd proposed after a deployment in the Gulf. Alex, who'd confided in me about off-the-books, orders from the Admiral, orders that smelled like war crimes. Elias leaked our pillow talk as seduction for secrets, painting me as the honey trap. Alex testified, broken, swearing I'd twisted his words. He believed the lies because Elias made them gospel. And when the trial ended, Alex got a quiet reassignment to a desk in Guam, while I rotted. Tears pricked, hot and unwelcome, but I swiped them away. No time for grief. I needed allies, real ones, not the vipers in my nest. By dusk, I'd slipped the lockdown with a forged sick chit, perks of knowing the yeoman's coffee habits, and hit the streets of Norfolk, the humid evening alive with cicada hum and distant ship horns. First stop, O'Malley's, the off-base Irish dive where sailors drown regrets in Guinness foam. There, nursing a soda water to blend, I spotted her, Sergeant Lena Torres, Marine liaison to my old unit, the one whistleblower who'd almost come forward in my first trial before Elias's donation to her kids' college fund shut her up. Lena was at the corner booth, scrolling her phone, her buzz cut and tattoos screaming "Don't fuck with me" even in civvies. I slid in opposite, casual as a chat-up. Torres. Been a minute. Buy you around? Her head snapped up, dark eyes wary but curious. Harrington? Thought you were glued to a screen. Small talk flowed, deployments, bad chow until I dropped the bait. Ever wonder about Neptune? The Admiral's pet project. Her glass paused, foam cresting the rim. That's above my pay grade, LT. Why? I leaned in, voice a conspirator's whisper. Because it's rotten. And I'm not letting it slide this time. Her laugh was sharp, disbelieving, but I pressed, flashing a screenshot from the drive, enough to hook without doxing. Lena's face hardened, the pieces clicking.
Shit.
That explains the pressure last year. They leaned on me hard after I asked questions. We talked for hours, the bar emptying around us, her story spilling like cheap whiskey, veiled threats, accidental demotions, the works. By last call, she was in tentative but fierce. What do you need? Everything, I thought, but aloud. Eyes and ears. And if it goes south, deniability. Adrenaline buzzed as I Ubered back, but the SUV from yesterday idled at the base gate, headlights cutting the fog like accusatory fingers. I ducked low, heart hammering, and ghosted through a side pedestrian cut. Inside my room, I barricaded the door with a chair and plotted. Lena would tap her network for dirt on Ryan. I'd go old school, tailing Elias myself. Dawn brought rain, sheeting the windows like tears, and I was out before Reveille, blending into the commuter crawl toward his Virginia Beach HQ. Elias's routine was clockwork, 0600 PT with his aides, 0700 briefings, 1200 power lunch at the O Club. I parked a block off, binoculars trained on the glass facade, watching him hold court, backslaps, baritone laughs, the kingpin in khakis. But cracks showed, the tick in his jaw when a staffer mentioned budgets, the hurried sidebar with a slick suit who screamed contractor. By 1300, I had photos, the suit handing over a thumb drive, Elias pocketing it with a nod. Bingo. Blackmail fodder. The afternoon devolved into a shit show. My phone lit up, Graves, furious. Where the hell are you? Report in now. I ghosted it, heading instead to a storage unit in Chesapeake, my first life's bolt hole stocked with bug kits and burners. As I rifled for a tail kit, tires crunched outside. Ryan's Audi, unmistakable. Panic surged.
How?
I flattened against the wall, peeking through slats. He was on the phone, pacing. Yeah, she's onto something. Spooked Graves already. We contain it, or the Admiral's head rolls.
We. The plural gutted me.
Ryan wasn't just a pawn. He was a player, Elias's right hand in the grift. I waited him out, breath shallow, until he peeled away. Then, gloves on, I planted a GPS tracker under his bumper, low-tech, untraceable. By nightfall, the signal pinged him en route to a Georgetown townhouse, not his usual bachelor pad. Curiosity overrode caution. I followed at distance, the wipers slapping a frantic rhythm. The house screamed money, federal townhome, wrought iron fence, a do not disturb sign on the door like a joke. Through the blinds, shadows moved. Ryan and Alex? My Alex, the one I'd buried in memory, laughing over wine. Betrayal round 2, fresh as salt in a wound. I didn't confront.
Not yet.
Instead, I drove blind, tears blurring taillights, until I hit the boardwalk. Waves crashed like accusations, the pier lights haloing the storm. Why Alex? In my first life, he'd been collateral, not complicit. But this was a rewrite I hadn't seen coming. Elias's rot had spread further, tendrils wrapping my past loves into his web. By midnight, back in barracks, Lena's text glowed. Got a lead on Ryan's payoffs. Meet tomorrow? Affirmative. But sleep evaded, nightmares twisting into visions of nooses and naval blues stained with lies. Wednesday dawned brutal, torrential downpour flooding the parade deck, mirroring my mood. Graves hauled me into interrogation light. You're playing with fire, Harrington. Your father's called, worried sick. The irony burned. I stonewalled, citing personal time, but the audit hit hard. My drive wiped, log sanitized. Elias was closing the net. Desperation clawed. I needed a big swing. That night, tailing Ryan again, the GPS led to a warehouse on the Elizabeth River, dim, derelict, the kind where deals died quiet. I parked dark, creeping close on foot, rain soaking through. Voices drifted, Ryan's whine, Elias's growl. She's digging, Eli. We can't. We bury it deeper. Like before. My blood froze. Before. They were replaying the script, accelerating the endgame. I edged closer, phone recording audio through the chain link. Then crunch, my boot on gravel. Headlights flared a shout. Intruder. I bolted, legs pumping through muck. Bullets. Wait, no, warnings cracking the air? Paranoia, maybe, but I didn't stop until lungs screamed and the base loomed safe. Huddled in my bunk, playback confirmed it. Elias admitting the frame, Ryan's complicity, even a casual drop about Alex's role in the leaks. Gold. But the cost? My hands shook as I uploaded to a dead-drop cloud, encrypting with everything I had. Dawn brought the hammer. MP's at my door, Graves' voice over intercom. Lieutenant Harrington, you're under arrest for unauthorized access and suspected espionage. History's echo, louder this time. As they cuffed me, real ones, biting cold. I locked eyes with the mirror one last time. Not the end. The beginning of payback. The holding cell at NAVSUP was a concrete coffin, dank, fluorescent buzzing hell that stripped you bare faster than a strip search. They took my tags, my phone, even the laces from my boots, leaving me in a scratchy jumpsuit that smelled of bleach and broken dreams. Interrogation started at 0900 sharp, Graves and a jag shark circling like barracudas. Talk, Harrington.
Who'd you sell to?
The Chinese? Russians. The shark's pen scratched accusations onto yellow legal pad, each word a nail in my fresh coffin. I said nothing, lips sealed, mind replaying the warehouse audio on loop. That was my lifeline if I could get it out. By noon, they broke for lunch, a styrofoam tray of gray slop that turned my stomach. Solitary gave me space to think, pacing the 8x10 like a shark in shallow water. Elias wouldn't show, not directly. He'd let the machine grind me, just like before. But this time, I had Lena. I'd slipped her the dead drop URL in a coded text before the bust. Storm's coming.
Check the buoy. She'd know.
And Alex. God, Alex. The twist knifed deep. In my first life, he'd been my rock, the one who'd proposed under Virginia stars, whispering forever between kisses.
Now?
Complicit. Part of the machine that chewed me up. The pain was a live thing, gnawing ribs, but I shoved it down. Fuel for the fire. Afternoon brought visitors. Mom. First, her face a mask of Botox and bewilderment, dabbing at eyes with a silk hanky. Valentina, honey, what on earth? Your father says it's a misunderstanding, but... She trailed off, wringing hands that had never known callous. I gripped the plexiglass divider, voice steady. It's not, Mom. Ask him about Neptune. Ask him why. Her blink was a deer in headlights, confusion, denial, the slow dawn of doubt. Elias? He loves you, baby. This is just... I cut her off, soft but steel. Loves me enough to frame me? Wake up. She left in tears, but the seed was planted. Small victory. Then, the real gut punch. Ryan, striding in like he owned the joint, Civi's crisp, smirk dialed to sympathetic. Val, Jesus. What a mess. He sat, folding hands like a priest at confessional. I stared, venom bubbling. Cut the act, you weasel. I heard you at the warehouse. Like before? You sold me out twice now. His facade cracked, eyes darting to the mirror, observing, no doubt. You're delusional. This is bigger than us. The Admiral's protecting the fleet. Protecting his wallet, more like. I leaned forward, whisper hiss. Tell Elias I'm done playing fall girl. The audio's out. Ticking bomb. Panic flickered, beautiful, raw. He bolted, muttering about clearing this up, but I saw the fracture lines spreading. Night fell slow, the cell block a chorus of coughs and clanging gates. Sleep was a joke, but at 0200, a shadow slipped under the door, a folded note, scrawled in Lena's block print. Buoy retrieved. IG has it. Hold tight. T. Elation surged, hot and fierce. The cavalry, charging. By morning, the base was a hornet's nest, sirens, frantic radio chatter, brass heads rolling in emergency sessions. Graves yanked me for round 2, but his bark lacked bite. What the fuck did you do, Harrington? The Admiral's office just got raided by feds. I smiled, slow and savage. Karma's a bitch, sir. The twist hit at 1100, not from Elias, but Alex, striding into the visitation room in full dress whites, face ashen, a folder clutched like a shield. No smirk, no charm, just hollow eyes that mirrored my own ghosts. Val. My name cracked on his lips, and something in me fractured too. Don't, I snapped, but he pressed on, sliding the folder through the slot. Read it, please. Pages trembled in my grip. Bank records, not his, Elias's, cross-referenced with Neptune disbursements. And a letter, handwritten, Alex's scrawl. I was blackmailed. He had photos, us, from that weekend in Key West. Said he'd bury me if I didn't testify. I thought it was over after the trial. But when you started digging again, he came to me, offered a cut to monitor you. I took it to buy time, to get proof. This is it. All of it. Lies, truth. The room spun, betrayal warring with hope. Why now? I choked, hating the vulnerability. Alex's gaze held mine, raw as an open wound. Because I never stopped loving you. And because he's coming for you again. Full court press to bury the audio as deepfake. The pieces slammed home. The SUV, the early bust, Ryan's panic. Elias cornered, lashing out. But Alex's proof was ironclad, timestamps, witnesses, even a recorded call where Elias threatened his career. My night, tarnished but true. The tears came then, unbidden, and he pressed his palm to the glass, mirroring mine. Fight, Val. For us. Release came at 1,500. Charges dropped amid the federal storm. The IG swarm hit like a squall. Agents in windbreakers, carting servers and shred bins from Elias's HQ. I walked free into blinding sun. Lena waiting curbside in her beat-up Jeep, cigarette dangling triumphant. Told you, LT bastards are done. We hugged fierce, rain-slick and real, before she peeled out for her shift. Alone, I drove to the homestead, the confrontation I'd craved since waking in this cursed redo. Elias was in the den, scotch in hand, the Admiral unraveled, hair disheveled, uniform askew, eyes bloodshot from the siege. Mom hovered in the kitchen, face drawn, avoiding his gaze. He looked up as I entered, glass clinking to the side table. Valentina. No warmth, just wariness. I didn't sit. It's over, Dad. The feds have the ledgers, the audio, Alex's corroboration. Neptune's finished. You're finished. His laugh was hollow, a death rattle. You think you know me? I built this country, girl. Kept us safe from the yellow horde, the Rusky wolves. Those kickbacks? Necessary evils. You were collateral, my own flesh, and I hated it. But blood means sacrifice. Sacrifice. The word ignited me. You sacrificed me for your yacht fund? Framed your daughter because I got too close. He rose, towering, but the fire was gone, replaced by a father's hollow plea. I did it to protect you. From the truth. Your mother. He glanced toward the kitchen, voice cracking. She knew. About the ops, the deals. If it blew, we'd all go down. I took the hit for the family. Mom's gasp echoed, the final domino. She stepped in, eyes wide with decades of buried grief. Elias? You said it was clean. All of it. He deflated, shoulders slumping like a sail in dead calm. I'm sorry, Helen. For everything. The Admiral, my father, crumbled then, confessing in a torrent. The first bribe in '09, post-recession desperation. The escalation with Neptune, AI drones greenlit for defensive strikes that crossed every red line. The frame as a mercy kill, sparing me a deeper dive into his abyss. It was monstrous, mundane, a good man twisted by power's slow poison. I wanted to hate him, to watch him rot in Supermax. But seeing him broken, human, the rage ebbed to something sharper. Pity, laced with resolve. Feds arrived at dusk, cuffs clicking soft on wrists that had saluted presidents. Elias went quiet, chin up, the old soldier to the end. Take care of your mother, Val. And Alex, give the boy a chance. I nodded, throat tight, as they led him away. Mom collapsed into my arms, sobs racking her frame, but in her grip, I felt the first stir of release. Months blurred, hearings, testimonies, the slow media churn from villain to victim. Me, the whistleblower daughter, splashed across CNN as Harrington's redemption. Neptune dissolved, billions clawed back, careers torched in the fallout. Ryan plea bargained to 10 years, others scattered like roaches. Elias? 25, no parole, but he wrote. Letters from Lompoc, sparse apologies scrawled in a hand gone shaky. I read them in snatches, the wound scabbing over. Alex waited, patient as tide, and one Chesapeake sunset, under the same stars where he'd proposed, I said yes, not to the ring, but to trying. We married quiet, on a pier with Lena as witness, waves lapping vows into eternity. Mom found solace in gardening, her hands in soil instead of denial. And me? Lieutenant Harrington no more, promoted to full commander, heading a transparency task force at Cybercom. The girl who chased uniforms? She grew up, traded ghosts for grit. But some nights, thunder rolling over the Atlantic, I wake gasping. The noose's phantom tug a reminder. Second chances aren't free. They cost blood, betrayal, the death of illusions. Elias taught me that. And in the quiet after, with Alex's arm heavy across my waist, I whisper thanks to whatever God lent me the redo. Because this time, I didn't just survive. I burned the house down and built a better one from the ashes.